There was a story preserved in ancient scriptures about a venerable man named Sariputra. One peaceful morning, as he was walking slowly along a quiet dirt path to collect alms while holding a simple wooden bowl in his hands, he suddenly encountered a woman. For some unknown reason, she flew into a towering rage, blocking his path and hurling terrible insults at him. She poured all her frustration, bitterness and malice onto the monk, who stood there in total composure. Yet, amidst that loud and harsh storm of fury, the Venerable One continued to walk, each step slow and steady. His expression did not change in the slightest. There was not a single flinch, nor a look of resentment or anger. He was as serene and light-hearted, as if those bitter words were merely the rustling of wind through the trees by the roadside, completely harmless. Ananda, the disciple accompanying him that day, saw this and was filled with astonishment, mixed with a hint of indignation. Once the crowd had been left behind, and the surroundings returned to their natural silence, asked how his master could maintain such an extraordinary calm in the face of such senseless humiliation. Sariputra simply smiled, a smile that understood the nature of all's impermanence. He explained that he had learned to let go of his attachment to the self. He was no longer bound by his physical form, his reputation, or any praise or blame from the world. When there is no longer a massive ego inside to feel offended, no longer a proud self to protect, those insults immediately lose their target. It is like a person throwing a handful of filth into the vast sky. The mud cannot stain the heavens, and ultimately it only falls back to the ground, dirtying the hands of the thrower. When there is no one there to receive the hurt naturally vanishes into thin air. When placed alongside our lives today, this story from thousands of years ago creates a long and painful distance. People nowadays seem very easy to provoke, yet find it incredibly difficult to find peace. We are not like Sariputra. We carry an ego that is far too large, too sensitive, and riddled with endless desires. Because of this, we do not even need harsh insults on the street. Sometimes just a delayed reply to a message, a casual remark from a colleague, or a cold glance from a stranger is enough to stir up violent undercurrents in our hearts. A tiny incident can make the whole day gloomy and heavy, causing many sleepless nights. Why is this? It is because our inner selves have become far too weak. Like a body that is frail from within, a gentle breeze is enough to make it fall ill. The more abundant and comfortable our external lives become, the more fragile the immune system of our souls seems to get. A light touch from others causes pain. A small tremor in life immediately sends us into a state of instability and anxiety. One only needs to look at the daily rhythm of so many people out there to see it clearly. Waking up before dawn, rushing into the streets, earning money, going to work, hurried meals, meeting a few people, and then returning to sink into an exhausting sleep. That cycle spins continuously, without rest, every day exactly the same as the last. On the surface, it looks like a stable, safe, and disciplined life. But deep beneath that perfect and busy shell, the inner self is gradually losing the sensation of truly living. Many people rush through long days with their heads down, chasing material goals, only to one day find themselves exhausted, realizing they no longer remember the last time they were truly happy. That lost happiness is not the explosive joy of a great achievement, buying a house, or getting a promotion. Rather, it is a very simple feeling of peace. It is being able to sit quietly on a sofa, looking out into space, without a heavy heart and without invisible anxieties, choking one's breath. Everything in this universe, from the distant stars to the smallest thought in the mind, follows an invisible but incredibly precise law, the principle of cause and effect. What we sow in our minds are the seeds, and the way life appears before our eyes is the fruit of those seeds. A calloused, soulless heart does not happen by accident. It is the inevitable consequence of a long process of enduring and suppressing emotions without knowing how to let go and heal. Some people believe they are becoming strong because they no longer trust anyone. They think that closing the doors of their hearts and rejecting all connections is the safest armor. But in truth, according to the laws of the inner mind, that is simply the moment the heart has become so utterly exhausted and wounded that it no longer has the strength to open up, to receive, or to face any more risks. Others mistake themselves for being mature and weather-beaten because they no longer feel moved or shed tears for fragile things or tragic circumstances. But the deep truth inside is a sad signal, indicating that the soul has become hardened and scarred after too many collisions with the harshness of existence. If a human being loses the capacity to love, the capacity to trust, and no longer trembles at the pain of their fellow humans, no matter how successful or glamorous their outer shell may be, their inner world has begun to wither and turn hollow. Sadly, society often has a skewed perspective, frequently applauding and praising people with those in different shells as being brave or resilient. People often tell each other that the colder someone is, the more capable they are. The less emotion they show, the stronger they are. The more they can hide their pain and their tears, the more they are seen as grown up. But that is not the case. Suppressing emotions and turning the heart to stone is just a way of escaping pain. It is sowing the seeds of ignorance and alienation. A truly strong person is someone who has walked through countless wounds, tasted enough bitterness and betrayal, yet still retains a pure kindness in their soul. They are the ones who have been betrayed and abandoned, but do not allow themselves to become full of venom and resentment. They are the ones who have gone through the ultimate losses, yet their hearts remain warm, not turning into unfeeling stones. That quiet wisdom, that steadfast compassion requires an immense inner strength a cultivation that is 1,000 times more patient and difficult than making money or fighting for fame. Through the lens of cause and effect, if we sow seeds of suspicion, the fruit we receive will surely be a prevailing loneliness. Some people, after just one major shock or a single act of cruel deception, change their personality entirely. They see risks and traps everywhere, beginning to doubt everyone around them. If someone treats them well, they immediately analyze what that person is plotting or what benefit they want from them. If someone shows genuine care, they feel uncomfortable, believing that behind that warmth lies only hypocrisy. And so, day by day, they manually build an extremely sturdy defensive wall, locking themselves inside the darkness. From the outside, that wall looks very safe and solid, as if no one can trespass or hurt them anymore. But in reality, inside is a cold loneliness to the core. Humans are inherently beings that need connection. No one can live for long in a state of constant defense, trusting no one, while still maintaining true peace and happiness. That closed-off defensive state is a toxic seed, silently draining the life force of the soul. Then there are those who bind themselves to a wheel of invisible pressure, living in stress and haste for so long that their minds permanently forget what relief even feels like. At mealtime, instead of tasting the food that nourishes the body, their minds are busy calculating future plans. While on a vacation in a far-off place, instead of immersing themselves in the vastness of nature, their hands are still clutched to their work, worrying about unexpected problems. Even when sitting among their most beloved family members, their minds are wandering, stuck on unfinished projects or unmet quotas. They mistake this for a high sense of responsibility or total dedication to the future. But in reality, it is a mind losing control, drifting aimlessly in the torrent of attachment. Sowing too many seeds of attachment to external achievements will inevitably result in the fruit of internal exhaustion. If a life passes by in non-stop effort, draining every drop of sweat and mental energy, but without a single moment of true relaxation within one's own thoughts, then what was all the glory and money for in the end? There is a very painful but incredibly common truth in the adult world. Something very few people dare to speak frankly. It is that as age increases and experiences thicken, and as hidden scars multiply, more and more people live each day simply trying not to collapse any further. There are no more grand, lofty, or idealistic dreams. There is no longer a fierce desire to conquer the world. Now, wishes have shrunk, becoming humble and filled with quiet concerns. They only hope that tomorrow morning, when they wake up, their chest feels a little less heavy, and they will not sigh before stepping out the door. They only hope that each night when they lay down, they can close their eyes and sleep a full, peaceful sleep, free of nightmares. They only hope that within the space of their home, behind closed doors, there will be fewer weary, heavy sighs. That is the most authentic and deepest portrait of the lives of countless people crowding the streets. They choose to remain silent, to smile, and to keep walking. No complaining, no screaming, but deep in their hearts, exhaustion has crept in and taken root in every corner of the soul for a very long time. If you stood on a high street corner looking down, you would see countless people laughing and talking naturally, communicating fluently, and carrying themselves with confidence and poise. But in truth, for many of them, it would take only one more small incident, one more tiny disappointment, for that entire facade of resilience to instantly crumble. Their inner selves right now are exactly like a sheet of transparent glass filled with millions of tiny interconnected cracks. An outsider glancing by would never see them, and they themselves intentionally ignore them, pretending the glass is still intact and sturdy. But that fragility is real. With just a very slight impact, a new pressure appearing by chance, or the final drop that overflows the cup, that glass will shatter into thousands of sharp shards, stabbing the injuries into their own flesh. All of that fragmentation and instability, in the end, is not entirely created by external adversity, but stems from an internal state of imbalance. This life has a silent, quiet, but indisputable law of operation. When the inner self begins to tilt, everything on the outside will gradually tilt along with it. This is the clearest manifestation of cause and effect in human psychological life. As the seeds of consciousness are, so the fruits of reality will bloom. A person filled with anger and irritation, always like a volcano ready to erupt, will sooner or later use words as thin and sharp as knives to cut and destroy their closest relationships. The burning anger within is the cause. The breakdown, separation, and regret on the outside are the effects. A person carrying blind ambition, rushing to hoard benefits and rise up regardless of the cost, ignoring health warnings and the waiting of their family, will face the immediate retribution of physical exhaustion, surrounding illness, and the alienation and coldness of loved ones. The seed of greed and intense attachment will produce the fruit of spiritual bankruptcy and being left alone in the middle of life. A person who always has a competitive mindset, always wanting to be better, richer, and more noticed than others, looking at anyone else's success with resentment and envy. That seed of narrow-minded jealousy will attract negative energy, repel sincerity, and produce the fruit of a life that never has a single soulmate, never tastes the flavor of sharing, and never knows the comfort of leaning on another. There is no need for a dark force to harm them, nor for anyone to plot their downfall. It is the unbalanced, twisted, and thorny state within their own minds that acts as a silent rope, slowly pulling their entire life downhill. When the heart is hollow and full of anxiety, every external foundation, no matter how grand or magnificent it is built, is just a massive castle built on soft sand, only waiting for a wave of impermanence to crash over and sweep it all away. Therefore, on the journey of a human life, please never underestimate the importance of inner peace. Amidst this loud, flowing rhythm full of temptations and competition, maintaining stillness in the soul is the sturdiest harbor. A person who, after all the storms of the day, can still gently close their eyes and sleep soundly at night is a fortunate person. A person sitting before a simple family meal with humble food, but whose mind is unburdened and who can still feel joy and appetite, is a fortunate person. A person who, after a long day of struggling with worries and physical exhaustion, still feels a heartfelt eagerness to return home, where safety and warmth are waiting, is a fortunate person. And above all, a person who has gone through so many collisions with fate, tasted enough of the cruelty and coldness of this world, yet whose heart remains soft and overflowing with humanity, and who has not turned into sharp thorns sticking out at everything, that is a truly immense blessing. Happiness, tranquility, and true strength do not lie in distant or grand things, lie in some perfect destination in the future. They lie right in the way we plant seeds of kindness, let go, and remain serene within our own minds in the present moment. When we are no longer preoccupied with clinging to an illusory ego, and when the inside has become steady, clear, and still, then no matter how much the world outside may tilt or how loud it becomes, the life that appears in our eyes will always be a peaceful, vast picture filled with light.